There is an old adage that truth is stranger than fiction, and nowhere is this more evident than in ancient Egypt. Their civilization was dazzling, yet simultaneously awe-inspiring and chilling. Welcome to this world. Let us delve deep into its more macabre aspects. 1. Mummification and belief in the afterlife. Ancient Egypt was a civilization obsessed with death and the afterlife. This obsession fueled a terrifyingly complex process of mummification, viewed as the fundamental ritual to ensure immortality. This process was both gruesome and deeply solemn, involving the extraction of entrails, the preservation of the body, and a series of rituals designed to guide and protect the soul on its smooth journey to the next world. The mummification process usually began shortly after death. The body was first purified, and then the embalmers began their grim work. They would insert a sharp instrument into the left nostril to extract the brain. The brain was typically discarded, as Egyptians believed the heart was the core of a human being. The next step was evisceration. Through a small incision on the left side of the torso, they removed the intestines, lungs, stomach, and liver. These organs were preserved separately in canopic jars, intended to be reunited with the body in the afterlife. Mummification was not limited to humans. Millions of animals considered sacred were also mummified. The subterranean catacombs of Egypt hold countless animal mummies, including cats, baboons, crocodiles, and birds, all considered divine messengers or sacrificial offerings to the gods. Although today we view mummification with a sense of morbidity and dread, for the ancient Egyptians it was a profoundly sacred ritual, a guarantee of rebirth after death. Their belief in resurrection and eternity led to a practice that is terrifying to us, crystallizing our own fears of death and the unknown. As we unveil the secrets of ancient Egyptian customs, this unease only deepens, reminding us of the chasm of time and faith that separates us from this extraordinary civilization.
2. The Pharaoh's death rituals. In ancient Egypt, the death of a pharaoh was not merely a sorrowful occasion. It triggered a series of complex, lengthy, and monumental rituals. The pharaoh's exalted status required meticulous preparation for their journey to the afterlife. Although some elements were similar to the mummification of ordinary people, the pharaoh's death rituals were of a luxury and complexity sufficient to baffle the modern mind. Following the pharaoh's passing, the body was swiftly taken to the place of purification, where the embalmers carried out the previously mentioned mummification process. However, the mummification of a pharaoh was clearly much more elaborate, involving special rituals and more refined materials to reflect their divine status. The extracted internal organs were stored separately in 4 different canopic jars, each protected by gods acting as the 4 sons of Horus. The pharaoh's heart, believed to carry their intelligence and energy, was left in place to undergo the trials of the afterlife. More importantly, the heart played a pivotal role in the weighing of the heart ceremony, the trial the pharaoh had to pass to gain eternal life. The fear and tension associated with this ritual were so intense that special spells were carved onto tomb walls to ensure the pharaoh's success. Perhaps the most terrifying part of the pharaoh's death rituals was the opening of the mouth ceremony. This ritual was believed to restore the senses to the mummy so they could receive offerings in the afterlife. During the ceremony, instruments were used to touch different parts of the mummy, while spells were chanted, symbolically opening the senses and reanimating the mummy in a ghostly manner. As part of the mourning process, royal women engaged in extreme forms of lamentation, including tearing their hair, scratching their cheeks, and wailing desperately. This expression engraved the harsh reality of death into the minds of the people. The pharaoh's death rituals highlight the ancient Egyptian obsession with death and the hereafter. Their belief in the afterlife was so unwavering, and the pharaoh's role in the cosmic order so vital, that they spared no effort to ensure his smooth entry into eternity, resulting in rituals that were both mesmerizing and terrifying.
The mysterious history of ancient Egypt. 3. Slavery and forced labor. In ancient Egypt, the concepts of slavery and forced labor present a deeply disturbing reality. Although Egyptologists still debate the exact nature and extent of slavery in ancient Egypt, there is clear evidence of enslavement and forced labor in large-scale state projects and domestic service. Slave labor played a core role in the construction of ancient Egypt's famous monumental structures, including pyramids, temples, and royal tombs. These laborers were not always slaves in the traditional sense, but were often conscripted from the Egyptian population to perform corvée labor, mandatory unpaid labor for a specific period. For these laborers, life was grueling and fraught with danger. They worked under the scorching Egyptian sun, performing arduous tasks involving quarrying, transporting huge stone blocks, and crafting intricate decorations. Many laborers suffered from malnutrition, severe injuries, and disease due to abysmal working conditions. While these workers played a vital role in creating the iconic architecture of ancient Egypt, their lives were filled with hardship and misery. Slavery also played a role in domestic settings, with slaves serving as household servants, gardeners, cooks, and personal attendants. Many of these slaves were prisoners of war or individuals purchased from foreign slave markets. Their status was hereditary, meaning the children of slaves were also considered slaves. The system of slavery and forced labor in ancient Egypt exposes a disturbing chapter in human history. The magnificent achievements of this civilization were, to a certain extent, built upon the suffering and exploitation of vulnerable groups. As we marvel at the pyramids and temples, it is important to remember that countless lives were consumed in their construction. The ghosts of past injustices remind us that behind solemnity and glory often hides a grim reality, outlining a terrifying narrative of life and death in ancient Egypt.
Magic and the use of spells. The supernatural world was not a realm separate from daily life, but deeply integrated within it. Magic, which the Egyptians called Heka, was viewed as not a dark, mysterious world, but as a natural force permeating the universe, equal to other elements like the wind or the Nile. Although magic was ubiquitous in ancient Egypt, from a modern perspective, its use carries distinct undertones of fear and unease. Egyptians used magic as a tool to cope with life's uncertainties and dangers. It was used for various purposes, including protection, healing, personal gain, and controlling natural forces. Casting spells was common and became an important part of medical treatment, combining incantations with traditional remedies. While these magical therapies might seem harmless, the spells themselves often summoned fearsome gods and demons, sometimes attributing the targeted illnesses to evil supernatural entities. Much of Egyptian magic focused on repelling evil and preventing harm. Egyptians lived in perpetual fear of hostile supernatural entities, including ghosts, evil spirits, and dangerous gods. They used amulets, magical texts, and spells to defend against these threats. The widespread scale of protective magic indicates a pervasive sense of fear and insecurity. The prevalence of magic and spells in ancient Egypt highlights their deep anxiety regarding existential challenges and threats, whether in this life or the next. These practices, born of fear and the need for protection, imbue our understanding of this ancient civilization with an unsettling and mysterious quality. The mysterious history of ancient Egypt. 5. Animal worship and sacrifice. In ancient Egypt, animals were not just part of the physical world. They occupied a significant place in the spiritual and religious realms, often serving as incarnations of gods or acting as divine intermediaries. This symbiotic relationship between humans and animals is manifested in practices that, from our current perspective, may appear baffling and sometimes even macabre. For example, ancient Egyptians revered various animals, including cats, crocodiles, falcons, ibises, and bulls. Each animal was associated with specific deities and worshipped accordingly. For instance, cats were associated with the goddess Bastet, the deity of home, fertility, and childbirth, who was also a goddess of war. The death of a cat would be mourned by its human family as if it were a family member, and even accidentally killing a cat was considered a grave offense. Despite the reverence Egyptians showed toward animals, they also practiced animal sacrifice as an important part of their religious rituals. Animals were frequently offered as sacrifices to the gods, based on the concept that the gods would consume the spiritual essence of the offering, while the physical portion was consumed by priests or devotees. One of the most disturbing examples of animal sacrifice in ancient Egypt was the cult of the Apis bull. The Apis bull was considered the incarnation of the god Ptah. While alive, it was Osiris, and after death, it was revered with utmost respect. When an Apis bull died, it was mummified and received grand funeral rites, and the search for its successor marked the beginning of specific divine signs. These practices reflect both the ancient Egyptians' deep respect for animals and their close connection to the divine, while also exposing a darker and more unsettling side of their religious rituals. Although to us, the dissonance between worshiping animals and sacrificing them may seem disturbing, in the Egyptian mindset, the act of sacrifice was not a contradiction, but an essential part of interacting with the gods. This is a chilling reminder of the worldview of this ancient civilization.
6. Royal incestuous marriage. In ancient Egypt, royal marriage was not merely a matter of love, but a political and religious mechanism designed to maintain the divine and royal bloodlines. Perhaps from a contemporary perspective, one of the most shocking practices was the prevalence of close kin marriage within the royal family. Kings often married their sisters or daughters, and marriages between royal siblings were also common. This practice of consanguineous marriage was deeply rooted in the gods of Egyptian mythology. The ruling pharaoh was considered a divine presence, the earthly incarnation of the god Horus and the direct descendant of the sun god Ra. To maintain the purity of this divine bloodline and keep power within the family, pharaohs often chose wives from their own lineage. This reflected sacred marriages between gods, particularly the union of Isis and Osiris, who were both siblings and spouses. However, the biological consequences of these incestuous marriages, such as genetic diseases and health issues, were severe. One of Egypt's most famous pharaohs, Tutankhamun, is a clear example. Genetic analysis of his mummy indicates his parents were siblings, and he suffered from multiple health problems, including congenital deformities, likely due to the prevalence of inbreeding within the royal family. It is speculated that these health issues led to his premature death around the age of 19. In the realm of the pharaohs, the boundaries between family, marriage, and divinity were not just blurred, but inseparable, creating an intricate landscape of relationships that is both fascinating and disturbing. Royal incest in ancient Egypt highlights profoundly different social norms and practices between their civilization and ours, serving as a stark reminder of the alien nature of the past. The acceptance and religious justification of such marriages show the lengths to which Egyptians were willing to go to protect their divine kingship.
Beauty standards and practices. Ancient Egyptian beauty standards and practices were vastly different from those we pursue today. Some may create a sense of unease for modern aesthetics or even appear bizarre. However, beauty was an important aspect of ancient Egyptian culture, intertwined with social status, health, and moral concepts. One of the more unusual and potentially disturbing beauty practices was the use of cosmetics, particularly eye makeup. Both men and women lined their eyes with a dark, carbon-lined ground from minerals to create an almond-shaped appearance. This eye makeup was not just for aesthetics, it held practical and religious significance. The dark carbon could reduce the strong glare of the sunlight, protect eyes from infection, and was believed to ward off evil. However, recent studies suggest that long-term use of coal containing lead could be toxic. The ancient Egyptian attitude toward body hair also differed greatly from ours. They considered body hair unhygienic. Therefore, adult men and women strove to remove hair from their entire bodies, including the hair on their heads. They used razors, tweezers, and depilatory creams to achieve this purpose. While this pervasive idea of hairlessness might seem strange to us, in the hot and sandy climate of Egypt, it likely served a practical function, helping to prevent lice and other parasites. The ancient Egyptian dental health condition was extremely poor, primarily due to their diet containing large amounts of bread riddled with coarse sand, which severely wore down their teeth. Dental problems are prevalent in many discovered mummies. Although ancient Egyptians possessed advanced medical knowledge, their dental medicine was primitive. While they had remedies for toothaches, they had no understanding of oral hygiene as we know it today. The ways ancient Egyptians pursued beauty, while holding functional and symbolic meaning in their context, may appear strange to us. The harsh nature of some of these beauty practices, the potential health risks, and the extreme beauty ideals they pursued provide us with a somewhat gruesome glimpse into their world, emphasizing the vast differences between eras and cultures.
8. Ritual human sacrifice. The issue of human sacrifice in ancient Egypt is a controversial and disturbing topic. While human sacrifice was not widespread in ancient Egyptian rituals, its long-term existence is supported by compelling evidence, particularly in the early stages of ancient Egyptian history. The most prominent examples of human sacrifice are linked to the royal funeral rites of the First Dynasty, especially at the royal necropolis at Abydos. Here, the tombs of early pharaohs are surrounded by smaller, subsidiary graves containing the bodies of servants and high-ranking officials. The nature of these burials, in proximity to royal tombs, combined with the lack of signs of natural death, suggests these individuals may have been sacrificed to accompany the deceased king into the afterlife. This practice reflects a terrifying aspect of early ancient Egyptian beliefs, that the king's retinue could continue to serve him after death just as they did in life. The practice of retainer sacrifice seems to have gradually faded by the end of the First Dynasty, replaced by small figurines called shaptis, placed in tombs to act as substitutes for the deceased in the afterlife. In later periods, textual records of human sacrifice appear in the pyramid texts, coffin texts, and other religious literature. However, these are often viewed as symbolic, metaphorical, or magical descriptions, rather than literal records of human sacrifice. The existence of human sacrifice and extreme punishments in ancient Egypt reveals a darker side of this civilization. The indifferent attitude where life could be easily discarded, the immense disparity in power, and the gruesome rituals and practices all cast a grim and terrifying shadow over our understanding of this ancient culture. Even as we marvel at the pyramids and royal tombs, these stories force us to recognize that behind historical greatness often lies a harsh reality, making the past feel not only distant, but extremely alien. Brutal punishments. The legal system of ancient Egypt was strict, featuring brutal punishments for crimes. From a modern perspective, these punishments may appear draconian, even cruel. However, it is important to remember that it was a different era, possessing different social norms and values. In ancient Egypt, crimes were divided into two main categories: civil crimes and criminal crimes. Civil crimes, such as property disputes, were usually resolved through compensation. On the other hand, criminal crimes included theft, assault, and murder, and these were often dealt with severely. Theft was one of the most common crimes in ancient Egypt. For instance, tomb raiding,